Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel launches second phase of Gaza war with ground operation. Netanyahu says defeating Hamas is existential test for Israel. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts with countrymen in monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat. Appeals people to be vocal for local and make India self-reliant. In sports, England wins the toss and opts to field in the World Cup match against India. Both sides made no changes in the playing 11. Israel has launched the second phase of its war against the Palestinian group Hamas with a ground operation in Gaza. Israeli Defense Forces attacked buildings they said were used as meeting points by Hamas. Israel has blockaded Gaza for over 3 weeks in retaliation to the October 7 attack by Hamas into its soil. As the Israel-Hamas war enters its 24th day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that his next stage of war will be long and difficult. He also vowed that every effort would be made to free the hostages held by Hamas.
More of our ground forces entered into Gaza in the development of the stronghold of Evil. This is the second phase of the war, whose goals are clear: the destruction of the military and governmental capabilities of Hamas and the return of the hostages home. At every stage until now, and at every stage from now on, we will exhaust every possibility to return our abducted brothers and sisters to their families. The war inside the Gaza Strip will be difficult and long, and we are prepared for it.
Military helicopters flew over Israel's southern city of Ashkelon on Sunday morning, which lies just under 20 kilometers from the Gaza Strip. Israel has tightened its blockade and bombarded Gaza for 3 weeks since Hamas's devastating attack. Israeli authorities said that at least 1,400 Israelis were killed in the deadliest day of the nation's 75-year history. Also, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said the escalation in Israel's military assault on Gaza surprised him after it appeared there was a growing international consensus around the need for a humanitarian pause in the conflict. In a statement, the UN chief said instead of the pause, he was surprised by an unprecedented escalation of the bombardments and their devastating impacts in conflict hit Gaza. He repeated a call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire for the delivery of aid. Israel Defense Forces said Egypt and the United States would expand humanitarian aid to Gaza. Israel accused Hamas of firing among Gazan civilians and using them as human shields. Israel Defense Forces once again urged citizens of northern Gaza and Gaza City to move to south.
The Israel Defense Forces is expanding its operations. We are moving to the next phase of our war against Hamas in Gaza. From the air, land and sea, Hamas uses people of Gaza as human shields. Hamas terrorists operate inside and under civilian buildings precisely because they know the IDF distinguishes between terrorists and civilians. Civilians in northern Gaza and Gaza City should temporarily move south of Wadi Gaza to a safer area. Tomorrow, the humanitarian efforts to Gaza, led by Egypt and the United States, will be expanding.
International Committee of the Red Cross called for temporary ceasefire in Gaza and tried to provide more sustainable aid support to the Gaza Strip in response to the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the enclave. Due to a communication blackout in the region, many international aid organizations lost contact with their teams in the Strip. As Israel's army moves into the army strip, The Hezbollah have started firing rockets and fire into the Israeli territory, leading a big threat to the Israelis. Clashes at Israel-Lebanon border raise fears of wider war. DD India correspondent Amrit Pal Singh reports.
As the Israeli army enters the Gaza Strip, Hezbollah has started firing rockets and missiles into the Israeli territory. They have threatened the Israelis that if they do a ground assault inside the Gaza Strip, they will open a full-fledged war front. I'm right now standing at a place called Shalomi. You can see the smoke in the air. Constantly, rockets are being fired by the Hezbollah into Israeli territory, and Israel is responding back by firing back. Those mountains, that wall that you see is actually Lebanon. I'm standing at a place called Shalomi, which is right on the Israel-Lebanon border. It is the last village or kibbutz on the Israeli side, and on the other side, what you see is Shalomi, and you can hear rockets being fired, missiles being fired, and RT guns being fired in response by the Israeli military. This area has been declared a militarized zone. People have been evacuated completely. It has become, cities and villages along the border have become a ghost border. Now the real threat remains that if Hezbollah opens a full front, Israel will have to fight the war on two fronts, one on the south with Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and one here in the north with Hezbollah. So the situation here is deteriorating by the minute as the Israeli army decide. You can hear these rocket fire behind me. That smoke that you see up there is the Hezbollah hitting territories inside Israel, and Israel responding back with its trying to neutralize their rockets and also hitting bases inside Lebanon of Hezbollah. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, had warned Hezbollah that if they jump into this war, he will finish them off as he's vowed to do with the Hamas. But that is easier said than done, because Hezbollah has the backing of Iran. Now, the real threat at this moment is the regional spillover. Will the war escalate? And this is what all countries have the apprehensions, and therefore you see heightened diplomacy happening in New York and elsewhere, Western leaders calling on Benjamin Netanyahu to ask him to take steps which prevents the war from escalating. With cameraman SP Dubey, this is Amrit Pal Singh at Shalomi on the Israel-Lebanon border for DD India.
And the United Nations Security Council plans to meet on Monday to discuss the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The UN Security Council earlier failed in its attempts to stop the war in Gaza, as its members were unable to approve either the United States resolution calling for humanitarian pauses or Russia's calling for an immediate ceasefire. Earlier on Friday, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, which made no mention of Hamas by an overwhelming majority. Now, Russia on Saturday said its forces shot down several Ukrainian fighter jets, while Ukraine claimed hitting Russia's artillery system, according to official briefings from the two countries. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its forces have repelled multiple attacks by the Ukrainian army and shot down Ukrainian fighter jets and multiple drones. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces continued their offensive operations and launched multiple airstrikes on Russian military personnel and hit their artillery systems and other targets. Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has decided to halt his 2024 campaign in the Republican presidential race. Mike Pence ended his presidential campaign for the White House after struggling to raise money and gain traction in the polls. Pence made the announcement while speaking at the Republican Jewish Coalition Summit in Vegas on Saturday afternoon. Pence is first major candidate to leave a race that has been dominated by his former boss turned rival, Donald Trump. And after extensive negotiations, automotive giant Stellantis has reached a new tentative labor agreement with the striking United Auto Workers Union in the U.S. Nearly 14,000 UAW workers who were on strike at two Stellantis assembly plants and several parts distribution centers in Michigan and Ohio have been told to end their strike and return to work. US President Joe Biden has applauded Stellantis and UAW for reaching an agreement. The deal comes after the union and Ford Motor announced a tentative agreement on a new contract. The deals include many of the similar terms, including a 25% general wage increase. Meanwhile, UAW has expanded its strike at a General Motors plant in Spring Hill, Tennessee.
Today, we reached a tentative agreement with Stellantis. Today is the 44th day of our stand-up strike. 44 days. We called it the stand-up strike as a tribute to the sit-down strike, which built our great union almost 90 years ago. The sit-down strike showed the incredible power of regular working-class people to fight for economic justice and win big.
And a countrywide dawn-to-dusk strike called by the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party protesting alleged attack on its Saturday's Grand Rally in Dhaka is underway. A bus assistant burned to death after the bus was set on fire by miscreants in Dhaka's Demra area early on Sunday. Meanwhile, the detective branch of police detained BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir from his Gulshan residence on Sunday morning. Mexican National Guard troops began clearing debris from the streets of Acapulco midtown after Hurricane Otis battered the Mexican coastal city and flattened homes. The death toll from Hurricane Otis has risen to 39 and at least 10 people are reported missing. Officials fear the toll may rise even further, adding that the storm caused devastation worth billions of dollars, while more than 8,000 armed forces staff have been deployed to clear the debris left behind. Authorities claim Otis has been the most powerful storm ever to strike Mexico. It even caught forecasters by surprise, gathering strength with unexpected speed before it came ashore, surpassing initial predictions. As Hurricane Otis caused devastation across Mexican city of Acapulco, thousands of surviving residents are struggling to get food, water and fuel supplies. The storm had destroyed power and supply lines as well as which caused severe problems for the locals. Also, people were seen standing in long queues at fuel stations in Acapulco amid the fears of fuel shortages. The Category 5 hurricane hammered the Mexican city last week, causing widespread devastation, flooding thoroughfares, tearing roofs from residences and hotels, submerging vehicles, and severing communication, road and air connections. In a monumental turn of events, the Writers Guild of America made a significant strides towards resolving its 148-day strike, one of the longest standoffs in Hollywood's history. After weeks of intense negotiations, the WGA reached a tentative agreement on a new contract with entertainment companies. The tentative deal, a result of extensive discussions between the WGA and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, addresses several crucial issues raised by the writers, while the exact language of the contract is yet to be released. One of the stars of smash hit TV sitcom Friends, Matthew Perry, passed away at 54. The actor was found dead in a hot tub on Saturday in his Los Angeles home. The actor has been widely known as Chandler Bing from his famous character in Friends. Police cordoned off the street where Matthew Perry was found dead. The Los Angeles Police Department's robbery homicide detective are investigating the incident. Many Hollywood stars took to X and reacted on the death of Perry. Let's now take a look at other stories making news across the globe. In a tragic incident, at least 32 people have been killed and more than 16 injured in a crash involving multiple vehicles in Egypt. The incident occurred in the morning and involved a bus and several cars bound for Cairo on the main desert road. The crash involved a passenger bus and several cars, some of which caught fire. Palestinian youth held a candlelight vigil for the people of Gaza on Saturday. Young children hoping that the war ends soon and held candles in their hands. The war has led to major loss of lives on both sides. Drivers waited in long lines at various service stations throughout Argentina due to fuel shortages. The government attributes the shortage partly to tourism as well as rumors of possible price hike following the last week's presidential election, adding that the shipments are on the way with the hopes of easing shortage in near future. Identical twins from all over Sri Lanka competed for the titles of Miss and Mr. Twins 2023 in the capital, Colombo. The beauty pageant was the first of its kind in the country. Winners will represent Sri Lanka at the Global Miss and Mr. Twins beauty pageant to be held in Colombo in mid-April 2024. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in Mann Ki Baat program. 7th edition of Joint Military Exercise Kazin 2023 to take place from 30th of October to 11th of November. And India take on England in Lucknow in the ICC ODI World Cup 2023 campaign. England have won the toss and opted to field.
Shagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi today shared his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program. This was the 106th episode of the monthly radio program. Sharing his thoughts, Prime Minister Modi appealed people to be vocal for local ahead of festivals. Prime Minister also remembered the great Saint Mirabai.
हमारी प्राथमिकता हो वोकल फॉर हमारे त्योहारों में हमारी प्राथमिकता हो वोकल फॉर लोकल और हम मिलकर उस सपने को पूरा करें। हमारा सपना है आत्मनिर्भर भारत। इस बार ऐसे प्रोडक्ट से ही घर को रोशन करें जिससे मेरे किसी देशवासी के पसीने की महक हो, मेरे देश के किसी युवा का टैलेंट हो, उसके बनने में मेरे देशवासियों को रोजगार मिला हो, रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी की कोई भी आवश्यकता हो, हम लोकल ही लेंगे।
Prime Minister also remembered the great Saint Mirabai and said today we can see the potential of women power in every area and their achievements are being appreciated everywhere.
आज जीवन का कोई ऐसा क्षेत्र नहीं जहां हमें नारी शक्ति का सामर्थ्य देखने को नहीं मिल रहा हो। इस दौर में जब हर तरफ उनकी उपलब्धियों को सराहा जा रहा है तो हमें भक्ति की शक्ति को दिखाने वाली एक ऐसी महिला संत को भी याद रखना है जिसका नाम इतिहास के सुनहरे पन्नों में दर्ज है। देश इस वर्ष महान संत मीराबाई की 525वीं जन्म जयंती मना रहा है। वो देश भर के लोगों के लिए कई वजहों से एक प्रेरणा शक्ति रही है।
The Indian Army and Indian Air Force contingent comprising 120 personnel departed for Kazakhstan on Sunday to take part in the 7th edition of Joint Military Exercise Kazin 2023. The exercise will be conducted at Kazakhstan from 30th of October to 11th of November. The G7 meeting of trade ministers commenced in Osaka, Japan on Saturday. Japan's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Kamikawa Yoko, addressed the opening session of the meeting. She also addressed another session-themed outreach session for enhancing supply chain resiliency. The outreach session was attended by 5 invited countries that included Australia, India, Indonesia, Chile and Kenya. 3 international organizations, World Trade Organization, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, as well as representatives from industries of the G7. India's Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution and Textiles, Piyush Goyal, attended the summit. In a social media post, the minister shared details about India's stand on issues related to both global and regional situations in the summit. The minister has reiterated India's firm commitment to free and fair trade, balancing equitable global growth with sustainable development goals. Speaking at the outreach session for enhancing supply chain resilience at the G7 trade ministers meeting, Piyush Goyal also highlighted the need for collaboration across key areas for sustainable and inclusive global growth. India's Trade and Commerce Minister later held a meeting with Japan's Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, Nishimura Yasutoshi, on the sidelines of the G7 trade ministers meeting in Osaka. Both leaders deliberated on adding further impetus to India-Japan trade and investment ties across diverse sectors. The Indian Trade Minister also held simultaneous meetings with his Australian counterpart, Director General of WTO, and Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and senior trade and investment representative from Japan. Let's now take a look at other stories making news today. One person died while more than 20 were injured in a series of blasts in a convention center in Kerala's Kochi city. Eyewitness said they heard about 3 to 4 explosions from center of the hall, where thousands of members of Jehovah's Witnesses had gathered for a meeting. Also post the incident, India's Home Minister Amit Shah spoke to state's chief minister to further take stock of the situation. India's first women police station is celebrating its golden jubilee. The station was opened in Kozhikode city in Indian state of Kerala in 1973, and its inauguration was conducted by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. This women-only station was established to provide a safe and accessible environment for women to file their complaints. Under the Amrit Kalash Yatra carried out for the nationwide Meri Mati Mera Desh campaign, nationwide volunteers arrived in New Delhi with their Amrit Kalash, carrying soil from their regional areas. The soil carried by these volunteers will be used to plant Amrit Vatika near India Gate in the national capital. And Delhi's air quality deteriorated to very poor category on Sunday morning. The city's 24-hour average air quality index stood at 309, following the cases of stubble burning reported in the surrounding states. A layer of smog was also seen over Mumbai, with the AQI exceeding 130. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sport, and England's captain Josh Buttler has won the toss and opted to field in the World Cup match against India. Both sides made no changes in the playing 11, and Indian players are sporting black bands as mark of respect to former captain Bishan Singh Bedi, who passed away earlier this week. India has triumphed in 5 consecutive matches, with their batting order in outstanding shape and bowling being the highlight. England has only managed to secure a single victory out of their last 5 games and is grappling with confidence issues. All signs point towards India securing the win. If India can pull off a victory here against England, it would also mark their first World Cup win over the defending champions in 20 years. Well, DD correspondent Abhishek Mahajan joins us live from Lucknow. Abhishek, first of all, how is the atmosphere there right now?
Electrifying atmosphere, Siddharth. I mean, over 50,000 people are here to watch the match, and we all know what happens in OTT and also on TV. But it's a big match, Siddharth, although India has lost 1 wicket of Shubman Gill. But again, when Virat Kohli came into bat, the chants were, I mean, reverberating of Virat Kohli. I mean, it's a different kind of atmosphere here. I mean, Uttar Pradesh people, especially Lucknow people, they are, I mean, crazy. And yesterday also, when we come to cover the practice session and the press conference, over 1,000 people were here, just wanted to have a glimpse of their favorite players. But yes, India, too early to say whether India has got a good start or not. But again, if you see matches, why India have been performing well, it's because of Rohit Sharma's batting and Jasprit Bumrah's bowling, and a lot will depend on Rohit Sharma, and all depends on how he starts and the kind of a player he is. Once he gets going, it's almost impossible to stop him. He has already hit 2 sixes, he has hit a boundary, he's coming into that rhythm again, and before the World Cup started, Siddharth, Rohit Sharma had said that he wanted to be in that zone of 2019 World Cup, where he had scored 5 centuries. So he looks in that zone. Barring the first match against Australia, he has almost scored in every match, and the start is very important. Too early to say, like I said earlier also, but yes, India would like to have a good start, and then 300, 320 will be a power score, and it will be difficult for the underconfident England to chase. But yes, yesterday, KL Rahul had come for the press conference, pre-match press conference, and he had also said that we have chased in all the 5 matches that we have played, and we want to try something different. And I wouldn't have been surprised if India had opted to bat first after winning the toss. But yes, losing the toss can also be a blessing in disguise for them. But yes, business end of the tournament is coming. If India manages to win this match, and then yes, they'll be almost through to the semi-finals, and they can try a different combination also. And there was talks also, Siddharth, this Lucknow wicket, if you see, if you take the example of the recent IPL and then the 3 matches that have been played here, Rohit Sharma must have been itching to play R. Ashwin. But again, since Hardik Pandya is not there, it would have changed the balance of the Indian team.
Correct.
But yes, I mean, 6 bowlers could have been an option, like the way Jadeja played in the last game against New Zealand in Dharamshala. But Rohit Sharma has gone in with the same 11. He didn't want to tinker with the 11. But yes, if India manages to win this match, they'll be almost through to the semi-finals. And yet, this is what India would want, to be the #1 in the points table and defeat England in this match.
Certainly. We'll have to wait and see what total will Team India post on the scoreboard. Thank you so much for your analysis, Abhishek. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Prasar Bharati from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.